Hey, have you seen the musical The Greatest Showman starring Hugh Jackman as P.T. Barnum? Well, I have to say that it's pretty doggone amazing. I think the music and the dancing are both so amazing. So I thought it would be fun to take a deep dive into P.T. Barnum. So, in the movie, Barnum is depicted as a brilliant showman. He's a risk taker. He sees people who were out of the ordinary. He doesn't give up, and he's a family man. Well, some of the real P.T. Barnum and the Hollywood's P.T. Barnum were historically correct, and then some of it was not. Hollywood must entertain you. Trying to sum up a lifetime in 2 hours is not easy. So, of course, they must have a lot of Hollywood magic put in. Barnum did have a wife named Charity, played by Michelle Williams in the musical, whom he was married to for 44 years. She died of heart failure at 65 years old. 1 year later, while in Europe, he married the daughter of a friend who was 40 years younger than he was. But by this time, he was 64. And the backstory, he's actually 2 years younger than Charity. He did have daughters named Caroline and Helen, but he also had two more daughters, Frances, who died at 2 years old, the year his museum opened, and his fourth daughter, Pauline, who was actually born 2 years later. So Barnum did not lose his job at a workhouse, but he was affected by the economy, and he did have to close a shop that he had. Barnum and his family moved to New York from Connecticut in 1834. In order to make money fast, he began his first hoax, or humbug as he liked to call it. In 1835, when he purchased an old, blind, and crippled slave woman by the name of Joyce Heth. Because slavery was illegal in New York, he found a legal loophole, so he actually leased her for $1,000 a year. He advertised her as a 161-year-old nurse to young General George Washington. He toured her around. She had to work anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a day telling her stories about Georgie the boy. She died in 1836, and in his shrewd way, he even made money off her death. He sold tickets for 50 cents a piece to watch the dead woman's autopsy in a saloon. Of course, it revealed her actual age as somewhere around 80 years old, so they were hoodwinked. In 1842, he purchased John Scudder's American Museum, which was a 5-story marble structure filled with stuffed animals and wax figures and conventional type exhibits. The building was located in Manhattan on the corner of Broadway and Ann Street. Okay, so check this out. I Google Earthed the location, and it was totally on a prime piece of property in Manhattan. He quickly transformed the museum into a carnival of human curiosities, dramatic theatricals, beauty contests, and other sensational attractions. And like the movie, it did burn down in 1865. And then it burned down again in 1868. He was not anywhere around the fire. He was even out of town at the time. His first successful exhibit in the museum was the Fiji mermaid. Now, okay, so the Fiji mermaid was a torso and head of a juvenile monkey. It was sewn on to the back half of a fish. It was hideous. However, when he advertised it, he used beautiful images of what most people would think a mermaid would look like, so they had to see it. So people came in, they paid their quarter to see the mermaid. Yes, they were bamboozled. P.T. Barnum, as it comes across the musical too, believes that people like to be tricked, or he calls it humbugged. Now, for the other human oddities that were in his museum and also in the musical was Chang and Ing, the Siamese twins. They were held together by a flap of skin below their neck. Today, that would have been successfully separated. In the musical, you see them kind of in the background when the dancers are there, they're flipping together. When they signed on with P.T. Barnum, they had already been in show business for many years, so they were pretty seasoned. They were able to buy a plantation with slaves. They were both married, and they fathered 22 children between the both of them. So next is Charles Stratton, or General Tom Thumb, who was played by Sam Humphrey in the musical. When Barnum gave his parents the money to bring him into the show business, he was only 4 years old. Barnum billed him as 11 years old, so he seemed older, and Charles Stratton was only around 2 feet tall. Charles will become Barnum's most profitable exhibit. He was drinking wine on stage when he was 5, smoking cigars by 7, for the public's amusement, so he looked older. What's interesting, Barnum was a teetotaler. In fact, you could not smoke or drink in the museum. And if you wanted to smoke or drink, you would have to go outside and then return. You had to pay full admission again. Stratton was very important to Barnum. He even helped Barnum out in 1856 when he went bankrupt, and they did visit Queen Victoria. But unlike the musical, the whole troupe did not go, just Barnum and Tom Thumb, in which the Queen was totally infatuated with Tom Thumb. The bearded lady, or Annie Jones, played by Kayla Settle in the musical. Annie Jones was born in 1865. Her facial hair attracted such attention that she was placed on display when she was barely a year old. She was brought to P.T. Barnum when she was around 3 years old, and Barnum paid her parents $150 a week. She became the top-selling bearded lady in the country. Before she died in 1902, she was known for her efforts to stop the usage of the word freak. What's interesting is, if you listen to the words of the song that she sings, "This Is Me," this is probably what she would have felt like back then. Other human oddities that are in the musical and P.T. Barnum's museum was the tattooed man, the tallest man, the fattest man, and Jojo the dog-faced boy, along with albinos and other things. Another one that was not in it was the woman with 4 legs, which was a twin that never completely formed, the human skeleton and many others. In 1850 to 1852, P.T. Barnum risked his entire fortune by importing Jenny Lind, a Swedish soprano. Jenny Lind is played by Rebecca Ferguson and beautifully sings Never Enough. Oh my God, I love that song. And as in the musical, he had never heard her sing. And unlike the musical, he never even seen her before he brought her from Europe to the US. Barnum had launched the most massive publicity campaign ever attempted for Lynn's opening night in New York City. She sang in front of a capacity audience of 5,000 people. She was a hit. Jenny Lind went on a grueling 9-month concert tour across the U.S., earning huge amounts of money for herself and P.T. Barnum. But unlike the musical, there was nothing between them other than making money. The breakup was because Lind grew tired of the way Barnum's publicity campaigns were. It was an amicable breakup, and Jenny Lind toured for a while longer out from under her contract with Barnum. And so the real Barnum was about 6'2". He had blue eyes and a pot belly. And also Hugh Jackman is 6'2", and I don't think he has a pot belly. But P.T. Barnum called himself the Prince of Humbugs. He also was a politician. He served 2 terms in the Connecticut legislature. P.T. Barnum did not get connected with the circus until he was over 60 years old. He formed a partnership with James Bailey, and he is the one that gave the new circus the name The Greatest Show on Earth. So Bailey founded the circus and Barnum made it bigger. So Barnum purchased a 6.5-ton elephant named Jumbo from a London zoo. During his first season under the big top, when Jumbo was so popular giving rides to kids, it was amazing. People were in awe of this huge animal. What happened though is when Jumbo was being taken off the train cars, he was accidentally killed by a speeding locomotive. P.T. Barnum put Jumbo's hide and his bones on display. They actually took the hide off and got rid of the meat and all that stuff and the bones, with the bones right there on the spot where Jumbo was killed. Anyway, in his 81st year, Barnum fell gravely ill. He had the New York Times publish his obituary in advance of his death so he could enjoy it. I mean, why not? Always a showman, he died in 1891. And oh, the really cool characters in the musical, Philip Carlisle, that was played by Zac Efron, and Ann Wheeler, played by Zendaya. Guess what? They were a Hollywood love story. They really didn't exist. But the trapeze scene is so awesome. And the song, Rewrite the Stars, is amazing. If you haven't seen the movie, it is on Disney Plus, Hulu, Sling, and you could buy it from Amazon or YouTube. I'm not sure if it's still on HBO anymore. That's where I saw it. So anyway, I thought it would be kind of fun. What do you think of P.T. Barnum? I think he probably was the greatest showman ever in American history. At least he started everything. And I am going to give you a homework assignment. You've got to see it. It is so good. And I'm going to have to leave it at that. Learn something every day. I love you guys. You are awesome. Thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And peace out.
Down, Gracie, down.